Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar, live technical demo on how to implement a VTL with IBM. My name is Axe Signer, Vice President of Electronic Storage Corporation, our company located and headquartered in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've been in business for over 30 years. We are software developers, so here in our Tulsa office, we have our own programming staff and also our own technical support and customer service staff here in Tulsa. We are an IBM registered business partner and a Microsoft certified partner. So we're going to be talking about setting up a VTL for IBM. So we're going to talk about Fibre Channel, SAS connectivity, the options that you have there for VTL connectivity to the IBM, NPIV configuration for Fibre Channel, the actual virtual tape library configuration. We're going to discuss full system saves, restricted state saves, along with D-mode IPL with virtual tape, adding tapes for using in backup rotations. And then we're going to talk about also leveraging existing storage with a VTL connectivity to SAN or NAS or deduplication backup appliances. So let's go ahead and start the demo. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is accessing the VTL through a web interface to perform the configuration and the setup of the VTL solution so that it can be presented to IBM partitions to run your backups. Just like you run backups to either physical tape or any other VTL solution, you'll be utilizing all of your current IBM backup utilities or backup software such as BRMS to perform your saves and as well as your restores. So this is a secure password and username that I'm going to log into to access this interface and to access my VTLs. So the first thing I want to talk about is that this interface gives you a quick look at your current port configuration to your IBM from the VTL solution. In this case, we're utilizing 16 gig fiber channel connectivity with a fiber channel HBA available to the VTL software. The other connectivity option that you do also have is SAS connectivity. So this is going to be the same as a physical or other VTL tape device that you're going to use to present virtual tape libraries, virtual tape devices to your IBM and to all your partitions to perform your backups. So this shows you your links that you're enabled, worldwide port names that are assigned to each of those 16 gig fiber channel ports. And we're going to talk about NPIV and how to set that up with a VTL solution so you can present multiple tape devices for each of your LPARs or for your single LPAR. Let's go ahead and talk about the virtual tape library configuration and setup. So we're going to look at library 1 as just an arbitrary name that we've presented to this interface, which represents library 1 menu option over here to the left. So we're going to edit this. Of course, our name, whatever you want to call your tape library within this interface. Serial number that is actually presented to the IBM as a virtual tape library. Emulation options 2, 3, 5, and 8. A couple of things to note in creating LTO options with this particular VTL solution, LaserVault Vital, is that none of these have a storage limitation. So if your backup is 20 terabytes from, say, your production LPAR, that can actually all fit on one LTO tape, LTO 8, virtual tape, or 5, 2, or 3. Also, the second thing to note is that they don't have any difference between the LTOs and relating to backup speed. Your backup speed would be consistent amongst any of those options, but typically you would select LTO 8 as your emulation. The number of storage slots is important. This is how many virtual tapes that you want to have available for your rotations, your dailies, weeklies, monthlies. that can go over 16,000. I believe it's like 16,350 virtual tape slots, which is the number of tapes you can have available in storage for you to be able to use for backups as well as for restores. So I'm set to 60 tape slots. What's great about the ability of a VTL solution is you could have literally all your tapes available online anytime to do a restore and a backup. And you can increase the number of storage slots anytime that you want to add additional tapes to your rotations. Now, if you did want to set a default tape capacity for any of your particular tape volumes, you can do that, because we have customers that actually save journals throughout the day, and eventually they want that tape to fill up to reach its capacity so that the next tape is rotated in to perform those saves. Now, the thing about saving to disk, let's say if you're comparing this to a physical tape backup operation to a virtual disk-to-disk backup process of doing your saves, some of the things that make the backups and restores fast and even faster than physical tape would be some of these settings with cache properties: write cache, read cache, block read cache, and block cache thread count. All of these things can be tweaked to present to you the fastest backup and restore speeds, up over twice as fast as physical tape. Our particular solution has replication and retention, which we're going to go back to and talk about in a moment, where you're wanting to replicate and set up retentions on your dailies, weeklies, and monthlies, as well as defining replication to copy backups to cloud storage, DR location, co-location, whatever the case might be. The next thing I want to talk about would be defining paths for your backup storage. In our particular solution, we have many different configurations that customers have implemented in terms of where they're storing backups for their IBM I. I have two different examples here. One where we're storing to local disk, which is path 1. So virtual tapes are stored there, backups are written to that path. This instead, as we mentioned in one of the capabilities, is to be able to use SAN or NAS, leveraging existing disk storage for your backups, as opposed to using local disk storage. So this path instead could point to SAN or NAS storage, deduplication, backup appliance. Some of our technology partners in that realm are Rubrik, Cohesity, Exagrid, Pure Storage, as well as many others. Then we have the option to add additional paths to the virtual tape library, in which you have a migration capability to additional paths. So this would be the case where if you're saving to local disk, number one for speed, you could have a second path to SAN or NAS and migrate tapes to that second path, which can be an automated scheduled process of migrating tapes, say a day old, 2 days old. Maybe you want to keep 2 days locally, and then you're going to migrate older tapes to the second path. And actually, in this example, that path is Microsoft Azure Cloud Storage. So I can have a set of tapes, more recent tapes in local storage, migrate tapes or move tapes to path 2. But the great thing about this is you still have the ability to see all the tapes in inventory available to restore from, even though they're in 2 separate paths. This is where you define your virtual tapes and your virtual tape libraries. This one single entry is control path yes. So over to the IBM I side, what that's going to represent is TAP MLB V1 and TAP V1. So that is a fiber channel or SAS connection to the IBM I from the VTL server or system, representing a tape library, tape device. If you actually configured this as control path no, then you would have just a tape device. So with this solution, you can either emulate a tape device or a tape library. So in the case of emulating a tape library, you're probably using BRMS, robot save, and you're looking for the auto load and unload capabilities of a virtual tape library, the same as you would have with a physical tape library using BRMS robot save. If you're using go save commands to run your backups, you may just want to emulate this as a tape device. Therefore, using any of your go save commands, CL programs that are running your current backups, and then using this new tape device and the new virtual tapes that you're going to make available to perform your backups and your restores. Now, again, I mentioned NPIV capabilities. So with Fibre Channel, if you have a single, say 16 gig Fibre Channel port within the VTL system, you can set that up to emulate up to 64 virtual tape devices. And those are simply added here with this add button. So another entry here with add would present another worldwide port name using the same physical Fibre Channel port, and no as your control path would actually present a tape library and 2 tape devices. So if you're wondering, can you do parallel saves with multiple tape devices, say with BRMS? Yes, you can absolutely do that. And that's going to be configured with adding more of these entries for each of those tape devices that you want to have available for that particular tape library. Again, 64 of these per physical Fibre Channel connection in the VTL server. And then, of course, those would be zoned through a switch, Fibre Channel switch, and those worldwide port names would be zoned to your individual LPARs on your system to make those devices available. Now you can establish some security, or you can establish quite a bit of security with this interface when accessing it. Although I will note that this is primarily used for setup and configuration of your virtual tape libraries. Therefore, using this interface would be pretty rare since you perform all of your saves and your restores from the IBMI side, because it controls the virtual tapes, the loading, unloading of tapes, and that can all be controlled through the IBMI side, whereas using this interface to perform any backups is not the case. Everything will remain the same with your current save processes and your restore processes. But in using this particular interface as an administrator, you can check all the features that you want available to a user that logs in and belongs to a particular group. So administrator group has the checked features available to them. Anything another group would have, you can uncheck as not being allowed to do certain procedures within this interface. Let's talk about replication and retention. So I have 4 examples of replication. I have a network path replication. So for replicating from one storage location to another. So for replicating from one storage location to another, so if you're saving on-prem at your DR site, your production site, you'd like to replicate tapes to either location or both ways, then this is going to present the process and configuration for doing that, because once these are defined, these are going to run as automatic scheduled tasks in order to make copies of your backups. Now this is different than migration. Migration is moving a tape from one path to another. The replication is copying the backups from one location to the other. So we'll edit these properties to set up the configuration. First thing you'd want to do is define which volumes this replication applies to, and that can be based on the prefix of the volume. You might have a different prefix for dailies, weeklies, monthlies, or prefixes for different partitions, whatever the case might be. You can actually set up notifications on your replication jobs to automatically send an email when a replication job has begun and a replication job has completed, or if there are any errors or messages within that replication job. You can enable blank tapes to be replicated. You can say all volumes or most recent number of volumes. Define your path for that replication. And then this is basically just going to process your jobs on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever your timing is on how often you want to perform the automated replication of those copies. Now, if you're not using BRMS, Robot Save, there's local and remote retention available below here, and where you can create retentions based on age, in my case 10 days, or the most recent volumes. So if this applies to your daily volumes, you can specify the length of time you want to store daily. Once it expires, you can have the VTL initialize or delete that volume. Remote retention, so these are your copies of your backups, where you can also do based on age or based on number of volumes for your remote replicated copies. If you'd like to perform cloud storage replication, which you can do in addition to replicating to another location, but you can also replicate the same volumes to cloud storage if you wish, or if you wish to replicate longer term backups to cloud storage. And that's very simply set up because for each of these Azure S3 Wasabi, there's already cloud storage properties that you can plug into these parameters utilizing your cloud storage account from whichever of those providers. So that makes it pretty easy for you to connect to your cloud storage account so that tapes can be automatically replicated to those locations, as well as defining retention if you'd like. Now, if you are using BRMS, for example, of course, maintenance on BRMS maintenance, when that is run typically on a daily basis, expired tapes within media policies for your retentions, those tapes will automatically be initialized within the VTL when you run BRMS maintenance. So that really maintains your retention of your dailies, weeklies, and monthlies that you have stored on disk. Okay, so also there is one other thing I wanted to talk about on terms of paths. When you define a particular path, you can say you want to maybe exclude these from the inventory. You want to, when it's initialized, you want to move it to a different path. Our particular solution comes with a compression feature, and that averages 4:1 compression, and that can be done during the backup or post backup. Encryption is here with your passkey, so data would be written encrypted to disk as well as compressed and at rest. With our particular solution, we do have data deduplication, which can increase your compression ratio with block level deduplication. With our particular solution, giving you 12:1, 20:1, or higher, depending on the change rate of the data that you're saving to the VTL solution. And so that would significantly reduce the disk space required for backups, as well as the time to replicate backups, since you're replicating a lot less data compared to compressed data. And this can actually be performed deduplication on backups that are stored on SAN, NAS appliances. Now, if you're using deduplication appliances such as Rubrik, Exagrid, Cohesive, just to throw out some examples, you would allow them to perform compression, deduplication, as well as encryption, as well as replication. But these are features that are available within the VTL if you're wanting to use those either with your current storage and leveraging that, or using storage on a server that's local on that server. Okay, so we'll take a look at Library 1. to see our inventory, the library path is pointing to all inventory. Currently, all of these tapes, these virtual tapes, are in path 1. If anything was migrated to the second path, it would show path 2, but it would also be listed in inventory, that tape that was migrated to path 2. So being that you can see the backup within the inventory also does mean you can load that tape and go ahead and restore from it. Now that tape is likely not local, possibly not local, but if it is, then that's good, because maybe you're migrating that virtual tape to your SAN or NAS from local storage, or your deduplication appliance, you're migrating it. If it's migrating to cloud storage or a remote site, then of course the restore would be much slower, but they are available in inventory to be able to restore or even save to. To create tapes, so we're going to select a path. I can actually pick either path to go ahead and create tapes. So it's really simple to create tapes. You put in your volume prefix, which is usually 1, 2, or 3 characters. You can say create multiple tape images, initialize, and create media. So once that media is created, you'll see those slots being populated with those initialized tapes, which also updates the virtual tape library inventory on the IBM I for that tape library, and then therefore means, say you're using BRMS, you simply add that media into BRMS with a media class that you've selected to use, and then that media gets automatically added into BRMS once you run the command to do that. So it's super easy to go ahead and create your media. Some of the other features you have on this interface is labels, where you can click on labels and see any of the libraries that are in the backup. So it would show library, size, sequence. That's kind of like doing a display tape. And so there's your interface for seeing all your tapes. And if you did need to move a tape to the drive, simply use the move command, and there it is available. Now the time that you may need to be able to do this is when you're running a D-mode IPL. Say this is a full system save tape, and what it's going to do is use that tape going through your D-mode IPL process to do a full system restore, OS, licensed internal code, as well as all user libraries, IFS, and everything. So that tape would be available, that drive would be available to select from during the IPL process. Some of the other capabilities we talked about, users and groups. You can simply go and add users, groups here, and then of course define security on those users and groups. If you're running replication through the VTL solution, this gives you a quick audit log of all your replication and migration jobs that have been completed. So just to kind of go through a quick look at a particular solution, such as our gateway solution with the VTL server, fiber channel connectivity through a switch, giving you NPIV capability to present multiple tape devices to the IBM I, or this could be SAS connectivity. Now you can do direct connectivity, 16 to 16 gig on the IBM I with no switch, although you would not have NPIV, but direct connectivity 16 to 16 gig or 32 gig on the VTL is compatible to the IBM I rather than going through a switch. So the VTL server, this being described as our gateway solution, is because you're using SAN NAS storage. So the data passes right through the fiber channel HBA to, say, for example, 10 gig NIC, 10 gig Ethernet connectivity to your storage, and therefore the data is written directly out to the storage without being saved to the VTL gateway server, so therefore not requiring additional storage. We talked about the multipath option, where you can save locally as path 1 and then migrate to SAN or NAS storage or multiple paths. And this connectivity, of course, can be Ethernet, Fibre Channel. You can run CIFS, iSCSI, NFS to give the VTL server access to that storage. Therefore, you see your virtual tapes that reside on the storage, as well as being able to save and restore using those tapes and using that existing and leveraging that existing storage. And this also demonstrates replication to DR side or production side, depending on where you do your production backups, therefore giving you another VTL in which you can perform saves and restores if you have to roll over to either one of these IBMI systems due to any kind of failure or disaster in your data center. Okay, so in the GoToMeeting panel, we do have sizing questionnaires, some documents. That way we can present you with configuration options as well as pricing, licensing, hardware options, server options. We can put everything together in a complete quote and configuration, or we can provide you exactly the equipment and HBAs that you would need for your particular environment so that you can go out and source your own hardware and HBAs and put the system together, because we can provide just the software licensing if you'd prefer. Some customer testimonials, a data sheet on IBMI and VTL solution, and comparison of virtual tape versus physical tape. So those are available in the GoToMeeting webinar panel that you can go ahead and download. So we'd love to talk with you more about your backup environment so we can get a better understanding of how our particular solution could help in your backup saves, saving you time, saving you from physical tape, which can be treacherous sometimes. Talk about replication and how you'd like to use, maybe you'd like to use existing storage. Just put everything together for you in terms of a complete configuration. And likely, we work with many IBM business partners as resellers of our solutions. So likely we can work with you and your business partner to establish the perfect solution for VTL backups. We'll have a drawing for a portable SSD, 1 terabyte. That's a decent amount of space. Anyway, we'll have that drawing and the winner will be notified via email. So there should be available questions within the GoToMeeting panel. If anyone has any questions, we do have a couple of minutes to go through some questions if you have any. I do also want to note that a solution is really simple to configure and set up, and what we offer is remote installation, training, configuration, so we can connect to your system remotely with you, with your IBM administrators and network administrators to help you guys perform configuration, help you with any BRMS configuration and setup. We're proficient with BRMS as well as robot save. And then therefore we can present you with the ability to test backups and be fully up and running within a day of configuring the solution in many cases. We will certainly email the handouts for you for sure. No problem. And then we'll look into why you can't access them. Need to check that and see what the deal is with that. Oh, BRMS report recovery report, the same as it does with physical tape. So the BRMS recovery report would be exactly the same as physical. Oh yes, BIOS. Yeah, good. That's a good question. So the HBAs that we use with our solution, having our target mode SCSI drivers and for the QLogic Fibre Channel HBA, it allows you to do both arbitrated loop as well as point-to-point. So then you have the option of either connecting direct or through a switch, because that card supports both in Fibre Channel. Okay, migration from other VTLs. Yeah, if you're using BRMS, you could use dupe media BRM and copy those other tapes to the new VTL solution. You can use dupe tape. Using dupe media BRM is probably the best way to do it, because it still tracks both tapes in BRMS. The one you're copying from and then the one you're copying to is applied the media policy from BRMS. And the good thing about doing the dupe is you can do that, during as a day process. It doesn't affect any access to any objects or anything. Yes, LTO is supported. The compression our compression software is included. So the compression is actually performed by the VTL, our LaserVault Vital software. Our compression is. That's about 4-to-1 average. Any of those LTO versions that we support within our system don't have any storage limit on them. So if your uncompressed backup is 20 terabytes, it'll fit on one virtual tape, no matter what LTO you're using within the VTL. And then compressed 4-to-1 of that would be your 5 terabytes of storage if your backup's 20. Our BDupe software would get you anywhere from 12-to-1 higher compression. Okay. Well, it looks like that's all the questions, and those were good ones for sure. But yeah, this is our contact. Oh, wait, vaulting solution. That would be similar to vaulting. Would be you have a lot of options there. It just depends on where you want to vault to. I mean, you can certainly vault, copies to tape by using dupe tape or dupe media BRM, going from virtual to physical. You can certainly do that. You can, migrate tapes to a path that is going to be for vaulting, whether it's cloud storage or another type of storage, or maybe even external storage. So really, you have a lot of options there, and you can automatically migrate tapes to a vaulting path or vaulting storage. There's export too, and export means that you can just simply move the tape and take it out of inventory for vaulting. There's no limit on how many terabytes of storage is supported. We have a customer that they back up about 100 terabytes a day. And so it's not, and it's not licensed on, it's not license based. The software is not licensed based on the amount of data that you're saving or the amount of data that you write in a particular backup. Yeah, you can do, okay, so you have LTO5s. Yeah, you can copy to our VTL solution using LTO8. You can actually do that. We do 5, 7, 8, or 5 and 8 are the two latest. LTO5, LTO8. Okay, so for IBM backups, Gigabyte speed. I've seen backup speeds as fast as 2 gig a second for backup speeds. A one virtual tape environment to SSDs around 850 megasecond. When I say 2 gig a second, we've got a customer that's using multiple tape devices, parallel saves. They got a lot of backups going on, so the total speed will get up to 2 gig a second. But again, one backup stream to a virtual tape to SSD would be 850 megabytes or faster per second. Okay, so storage technology can be typically RAID SSD, so enterprise SSD storage. NVMe we use for deduplication index storage. So in addition to SSD for the actual backup storage using enterprise SSD, you would have NVMe to do your deduplication index storage. So that's all we use NVMe for, and we will configure NVMe to the highest usage NVMe storage. Okay. Looks like that would be all the questions. Again, good questions. Okay, wonderful. Again, give us a call, shoot us an email if you'd like to talk more about your IBM I backup environment so we can see how we can help you guys out with your saves and restores. Anyway, thanks everyone for your time, and have a good rest of your day.